Here's a look at all Destiny Rising characters, their abilities, and their weapons. Before we go through all the details, let me know in the comments which character design you like the most, and, well, we'll see if you like their abilities too as we get into this. As a quick heads up, as I cover the characters, I'll explain their playstyle, the weapons they have, and what kind of areas of content they're going to do well in. I'll also carefully explain the abilities and how they work and any special passive features you should be aware of. Let's start with Tan 2, the first mythic. Tan's playstyle is for those that trust their aim, with 2 long-range weapons and bonus damage and features for hitting more critical shots. This character is going to do well if you know how to land your shots. He's also going to be really good in PvP, but probably not very good at soloing most PvE content. The 2 weapons that he gets is a scout rifle, and the secondary is a sniper rifle. For those that don't know, in Destiny Rising, your primary has infinite ammo, and your secondary is essentially the power weapon. So the scout rifle ends up firing like this. It's fully auto, but it's long range. And then the sniper rifle is a high damage per shot weapon. And this is going to be really strong in PvP, in my opinion. It's one of the best high damage per single target weapons in the game. As you can see, it's pretty powerful. When it comes to Tan's abilities, he gives support to the team. Now, there are different ways you can do this, because one of his abilities lets him switch between 2 different forms. By default though, his first ability will send out a fireball. Now, whoever gets hit by that fireball will take fire or solar damage over time. Those hit by the fireball will take increased damage and they won't be able to recover their health. By default, the ultimate is going to create an AoE area. Anybody in this area on your team will get increased damage. Now, when you press the secondary ability, you'll switch forms. This area, the ultimate, will now provide healing over time for anybody in the radius. And you can probably guess the first ability will turn into a healing orb that you can throw down to provide AoE healing as well. But it doesn't stop there. Every Destiny Rising character has some pretty complex passive abilities, and these become more complex as you level up through the game. It all revolves getting headshots with the weapons that Tan has available. By getting enough headshots, you will fill up the flare bar in the bottom of the screen. Once this is filled up, when you use your primary, which is the flame ball or the healing ball, the ability will be enhanced. If I get a bunch of headshots here and then send out the flame ball, it's going to do more damage. As we fill up the bar now, this effect also works for the healing orb. It should be noted that you can switch between forms and put down the healing orb and the fire orb at the same time. Another part of Tan's passive is that when you get the full headshot meter bar filled up and then use your flame ball or healing ball ability, you'll enter the phosphorus state for 6 seconds. By default, this is going to give you passive health regen and faster movement. However, when you upgrade Tan, this will allow you to do increased headshot damage and maintain phosphorus state. So the more headshots you do, the longer you'll be in phosphorus, and then the more damage you'll do with headshots. So Tan's late game potential really is all about landing consecutive headshots as often as possible. Next up, we have Gwynn. Gwynn's playstyle is all about getting up in enemies' faces and taking out as many enemies as possible in a big pack of enemies. The more enemies you take out, the more healing you're going to get back to yourself, and when you're fully upgraded, the more damage you'll do. So it's all about going in a frenzy, in a fiery blaze of glory, essentially. Funnily enough, she's a void character, but you get the point. Let's first start with the weapons, and then we'll look at the abilities. So first, we've got dual pistols. These things, as you can imagine, they're pretty decent long range, but really they're going to be most beneficial like up close. Then secondary is a shotgun. So once again, up close is going to be where she's doing really well. You can kind of get an idea from the weapons alone what kind of playstyle she has. We need to start with Gwynn's passive first. It's all about void spirits. So when you take out an enemy, a void spirit will appear in their location. So watch this. As you can see, there's a void spirit there. Now, this is going to augment all of your abilities, but also, if you walk into this void spirit, you will get bonus healing for a time, and the void spirit will stay circling your body. So if I go and kill a bunch of enemies right now, I'm going to build up a massive stack of void spirits, as you can see. Right now, we've got 8. Now, the Void Spirits will disappear after 15 seconds, but the Void Spirits are going to augment the rest of her abilities. The first ability will basically deal damage in an AoE fashion, and the more Void Spirits in the area, the more damage you're going to do. And this is also going to heal you as well. So you can really be aggressive with Gwynn, especially in PvE where there's massive packs of enemies, get a bunch of Void Spirits and keep passively healing off of your abilities. What's even greater is that this ability gets charged based on how many Void Spirits you pick up. So let me showcase how often you can use this ability if you keep spamming it. So we're going to go in first, right? We're going to activate this ability. And then if we get some more Void Spirits, we can then use it again. Gwynn's secondary is essentially a phase ability. You'll dash towards the target. You'll be invulnerable in this phase state, and when you leave it, you'll be taking resisted damage for a short time. And those that get hit by it will also be immobilized, as you can see here. When you activate Gwynn's ultimate, you'll immediately get some Void Souls, and also if you eliminate anybody, you'll immediately get the Void Souls like sent straight to Gwynn. So you're going to get a lot of the passive benefits that the Void Souls give you, as well as doing a lot of damage. We've already talked about Gwynn's passive, but as you upgrade Gwynn, you'll get access to more traits. The first trait gets you more Void Spirits by basically just using the guns. So the more you shoot, the more Void Spirits you'll get. So you'll get even more passive healing. The second trait augments the second ability, the dash ability, to essentially suck up all of the nearby Void Spirits and pick them all up at once. So you're going to get a massive boost in healing. And the third trait is where Gwynn becomes really tanky. Essentially, all of the extra Void Spirit that she picks up will go into an overshield. So she's going to get even more health. And when you combine that with this trait, you're just going to be able to basically passively sustain yourself just by shooting everybody. Gwynn's weapon masteries essentially just increase your damage for your weapons. It's pretty straightforward there. If you're finding this video useful so far, please consider subscribing. It would really help a lot. Next, we have Ning. Ning is currently my personal favorite in Destiny Rising because he's got a lot of mobility and he's super fun for close ranged engagements. Ning's also got some abilities that will allow you to do AoE damage to really just hunt through a lot of the PvE content, even if you're a solo player. Let's start with Ning's weapons. The primary is an SMG, and it's going to be really good up close and personal. The closer you get, the better it's going to be, and it's pretty good in hip fire. You're going to, a typical SMG. You're not really going to get much more else out of it. Then we have the crossbow, and this is an auto crossbow. It's also a pretty high fire rate weapon. It's going to give you a little bit more range and some bursty damage when you get them in the head. It's nowhere near as good as Tan's long-range weapons in terms of damage per shot, but it's a nice full auto weapon that provides a little bit more damage output than the SMG. Next, let's look at Ning's abilities and how they basically allow you to farm through PvE content very easily, all on your own. Let's first start by explaining his second ability, because this is going to really tie together all of his kit. You basically put a clone down. Now, anyone in this radius will basically take stacks of electricity damage. On top of that, when you're in this radius, you're going to take damage resistance and have faster movement. So the playstyle to begin with is to put down your clone, stand in the AoE, and deal damage in this area. Ning's first ability is basically a giant slam attack. And what's interesting is if you activate the clone first and then hit the slam, the clone will slam alongside you. So it's basically like a double slam. So you activate this first, and then you slam towards your target, and the clone will follow with you. Now, the passive basically ties all of these three things together, the weapon and the two abilities. Using your abilities or shooting the enemies will basically create stacks of lightning, which will chain together and attack nearby enemies, as you can see. So when you combine all three things together, you put down your clone, and then you go into AoE, and then you shoot, you're going to do massive stacks of AoE damage that's really, really fast at clearing stacks of basically like the normal PvE waves. You're not necessarily going to take out bosses quickly, and you might not necessarily be great at doing bursts of damage in PvP, but clearing waves of PvE enemies, it's never been more satisfying. The ultimate is basically going to send out stacks of this lightning as well, and you'll be able to dash between targets very, very quickly. And what's really nice about Ning phase abilities is you can use them to disengage as well as using it as an engage. So if you really need to get away quickly, that first ability is a real nice way to do it. It should be noted that the ultimate is also going to augment the clones. They're going to do more damage, and they can even block incoming damage. Ning phase first trait basically means that when you use your first ability and kill enemies with it, your clone will get more energy. So you can kill enemies with your lightning strike ability, and the clone will be able to stay alive for longer. The second trait allows you to do consecutively more damage with the ultimate. Basically, each kill you get will increase the damage for the next target. And then the third trait, if you get a kill of either of these abilities, the two signature abilities, you'll be able to reload twice as fast. Ning phase weapon mastery is all about dealing more AoE arc damage. The more you shoot, the more you'll get this arc overload effect, which is going to do more damage to enemies in an AoE radius. Next, we have Jolder. Jolder is a tank hero all about trying to get everyone's attention on you and basically soaking up all the damage and providing passive healing. Let's first look at the weapons and then talk about the abilities. There's a lot of close range weaponry here. So you've got an SMG for your first weapon. The secondary is actually a sword. Has one attack like this, and then a secondary, which is sort of like more damage. First, let's talk about the passive, because once again, this explains and ties together all of Jolder's abilities. You can build rage, a rage meter, if your ultimate is attacked or if you take damage. You'll also get more rage when using the first ability as well. So you build up this rage bar by essentially using her abilities and taking damage. Now, whenever you activate this ability, which is like a big slam effect, you're going to get passive healing based on how filled up the rage meter is. So you can take a bunch of damage, soak it all up, and then use that to basically get more passive regen health. Now, when you use this slam ability, it's going to taunt enemies. Well, they just got instantly destroyed. It will taunt enemies and reduce the amount of damage that they can output. So it's going to force all enemies that you hit with it to attack you. Their incoming damage is going to be less, and you can build up your rage meter to then basically suck up more damage. And if you need more health, you can then use this ability, which is going to bounce between enemies and provide you with an overshield when you send it back to yourself. The ultimate is essentially a big dome, and you can shoot out of the dome, and if anybody attacks the dome, it's going to build up your rage meter as well. As you can see here, we're not taking damage. We can build up our rage meter and then use our slam to get more passive healing and overshield. This character really is all about just being tanky. You don't have to worry about trying to stay alive too much because all of your abilities are about self-sustain and keeping yourself alive. Jolder's weapon mastery will essentially let you build up retribution stacks, and the more retribution stacks you have, the more damage you're going to do. Jolder's first relic trait will basically reduce the cooldown of your abilities when you use the Skyfall Slam once you've got a big rage meter filled up. The more rage meter you have filled up, the more it's going to recover your abilities, including Skyfall Slam itself. So you can kind of keep chaining it together if you build up enough rage meter. This is a really useful support perk here for the relic trait too. You're basically going to get more rage just by having teammates on your team. And the third trait basically makes it immune to any debuffs. Next we have Wolf, the poster child for Destiny Rising, and actually one of the better characters for the game. Even though this is the character you start with, they're pretty good. Let's first start with the weapons. So you got a nice decent assault rifle to begin with. It's going to be a nice blend of sort of mid to long range. And then we have a grenade launcher, which is perfect for AoE damage and dealing a bit more bursty damage on bosses. Wolf's abilities are also really useful because you can use them really often. Firstly, you're just going to passively build up this bar at the bottom. This is Wolf's passive. When this passive is fully filled up, your second ability is going to have a longer range, it's going to provide you overshield and do more damage. And this second ability is really good. it will strike you forwards, and if you eliminate an enemy with it, you can just keep using it again and again and again. Check this out. Player's dead, and then we can use it again, and keep using it over and over until it no longer gets us a kill. Technically, that did get us a kill, but not on an enemy. And then we have a long-range wave attack, and this is going to do damage over time, and also reduce healing to anybody hit by it, as well as doing a nice burst of damage when it first activates. You can show it here. It does quite a lot of damage, and it also does damage over time. Wolf's ultimate is basically just a really fun ability that's going to allow you to just jump around the battlefield. It's going to allow you to dash to enemies and deal a lot of damage to anybody you hit with it. Wolf's first relic trait will basically augment the first ability, the flame attack. You'll be able to send out 2 waves instead of 1. You'll get a 400 health overshield and 40% movement speed increase. Wolf's second relic trait will allow you to immediately eliminate an enemy if they're below a certain health threshold. This is obviously going to pair really well with the sword attack, but it also works with this one. And then this one's really good for fighting bosses. The third trait will basically increase the damage done to stronger enemies by 20%. And then Wolf's weapon mastery is all about dealing extra damage to those that have been hit by the Wolf's flame. So essentially, anyone hit by the Wolf's flame will take increased damage whilst the flame attack is still activated. Next, we have Ikora. She's all about dealing lots of AoE damage. Once again, she's going to be really good in most PvE areas, although there is some kind of frustrations with her kit that I found personally, that being that she has basically a 1 reload on her grenade launcher. So her 2 weapons are a grenade launcher and a rocket launcher. So you have 2 AoE blast weapons, and they are strong, but you have to fire, reload, fire, reload. It's a bit of a pain for me personally, but if you like lots of AoE damage and you hate dealing with large masses of enemies, then this character might be for you. Ikora's first ability will essentially send out these orbs that does an AoE blast. The second ability will send out another orb that sucks players into the center, and when you combine those together, it does a lot of damage in that circular radius. And what's interesting is you can basically combine this, and a grenade launcher shot to do a lot of damage. So you're basically bringing all the enemies into a nice little spot for you to use all of sort of your AoE damage. Ikora's passive is all about just recharging the abilities. So for every kill that you get or assist, you're going to recharge the cooldown of these abilities. So, you know, remember that reload mechanic that I talked about that's kind of annoying? You've basically just got to keep cycling these 2 abilities together. And then when you do that, these abilities will become available more often. And Ikora's ultimate is basically just another large AoE blast that just fires forwards like that, and it will hit whatever it hits. It will do a lot of damage, but that's it. It's done. It's over. Ikora's traits are a bit all over the place. The first one will basically give Ikora overshield when you use this ability here, the secondary ability. The second one will do more damage with the ultimate, depending on how many enemies it hits. And then the third trait, as well as the weapon mastery, give you this new effect called Neutron Rebirth. Basically, when you hit an enemy with your abilities or your weapon, they will get this effect on them that when they walk near another enemy, they'll sort of explode and deal AoE damage. The more you upgrade it, the more damage it's going to do. So this is going to give you some even more AoE power. If your abilities somehow don't kill the enemy, they'll then walk into a nearby enemy and explode again, and then they'll die and also kill the other enemy, which is pretty cool. Next, we have Kabr. He's the kind of character you're going to want to play if you like sort of setting up a little bit further away from the action and shooting people from a distance. We'll start with the weapons first. The primary is a burst rifle. It's a pretty effective weapon to use at long range, and it's really nice and simple to use. And then the secondary is a big old LMG. It also is really good at like decent distances. His secondary is going to put down a shield, and you can shoot through it, but enemies can't shoot through the other side. Kabr's next ability will blind enemies, which will basically make it hard for them to shoot. As you can see, they're not really going to have a good time shooting you. When you activate the flash, it's also going to heal you. Kabr's ultimate will first blind enemies, and then you can use it to send out repeated blasts of energy to deal damage and blind enemies. When you upgrade Kabr's abilities, you can get a feature where when you put down the shield and an enemy walks through it, they'll be blinded. I'm not sure what this effect feels like in PvP, but I wonder if it could be useful there. The next trait gives you more blinding and more damage, but this time from the ultimate. And then the third trait allows the barrier to last for longer. And his weapon mastery is all about shooting through the shield. With the weapon mastery unlocked, you're going to be able to do chain damage, similar to Ling Fei. So you're going to do AoE damage against waves of enemies, but only when you're shooting through the shield. And as you level it up, the frequency of the chain lightning effect will be more frequent and deal more damage. Next, we have Finala. The weapons that she has is an auto rifle and a sword. She is another defensive hero, and you're going to see a lot of close range engagements with her, although she does have an assault rifle, so you get a bit more long range distance. Her secondary is going to create this large field, and anybody that walks through that will take damage, and anybody that shoots through it will have their damage reduced by 50%. So it's like a flame wall, and yeah, you can imagine that's going to work well with the sword, right? You can walk into enemies and force them to take solar damage. It's pretty good. Look, we're just standing here and they're taking damage over time. And then we have the other ability, which is basically going to cause enemies to be sucked into the center. They'll take solar damage, and they'll also be taunted, which means they'll focus you and not anybody else. And then we have the ultimate, which is basically a big boy version of the abilities you just saw. You spin around, do a lot of AoE solar damage, pretty straightforward. Now she also has a bit of a support feature on her passive. When she eliminates an enemy with any kind of flame ability, basically her whole kit, then they will be generating one fire sprite. And if you walk into that fire sprite or shoot it, you'll get passive healing. And your allies can also shoot and walk into it as well. If I go here, for example, and shoot this captain down, I'm going to create a fire sprite, and my teammate can then walk into that and get healing. The first relic trait is going to allow you to use the spinning attack more often. Every time you get an elimination with it, you'll get 20% of the cooldown reduced. And then the second one is going to be really good to improve this blazing barrier ability. Essentially, enemies will deal less damage when they're inflected with the flame effect. And then this is going to amplify the passive. So once this is unlocked, not only will allies get healing, but they'll also take 8% damage resistance. Then the weapon mastery is all about sort of augmenting the area. Once the barrier is activated and you hit targets with your weapons, you're going to do more flame damage essentially, which is pretty crazy when it really stacks up here. If you like hand cannons or supporting your teammates, then Attal might be for you. Firstly, yeah, she's got a hand cannon. Can't complain there. And then her secondary is a fusion rifle. You gotta charge it up and then it fires like this. Damage is pretty good. Decent damage per shot. So more bursty damage. Obviously from longer range you're gonna want to use the fusion rifle. Now the abilities are quite interesting. First we've got a basic heal on the secondary. You just aim at your teammate and you're gonna be able to heal them. Now, you'll heal yourself if you tap it once, but if you hold down, you can target, and it will heal who you target. And the next ability is basically a AoE ricochet that will bounce between enemies. It will slow them, and it will also deal damage and blind them. And then in an ultimate, you basically can do a lot of AoE projectile damage. Like so. Now, any ability that you use will basically give health to anyone you're targeting. So there's a lot of healing going on here with these abilities. Now, what's really cool is this relic trait here. Basically, Attal has like a little creature here called Mint. And once it's activated, Mint will do healing to all allies. So you activate your super, you deal damage, and you don't have to worry about healing because Mint will do it for you. Her second trait is tied to her weapon mastery. Basically, when you do enough damage or do enough healing, when you next reload, your weapon will fire out mini missiles alongside its damage. And this will do more damage to enemies. And also alongside this perk, it's going to blind and slow them as well. And then this one will allow you to get 2 charges of the healing ability as opposed to 1 by default. And then we have Xuan Wei, who's got a fusion rifle and a shotgun. So this weapon's really quite cool. Basically, anyone in this original, like this box here, will take damage. It will charge up, and as long as they've got the targeting thing on them, it's going to hit them. You don't have to actually hit on target. And the other weapon is just a shotgun. Now, his basic abilities are actually really cool. They're pretty fun. So the first ability will pull in a player, and then the second one will knock them back, and when they land, they'll cause an explosion. So you can basically pull in players, send them flying into enemies, and cause massive AoE explosions, which is pretty cool. And then the ultimate, you basically do a lot of damage and knock players down. It's all melee based. So with his passive, whenever you hit an enemy with his abilities, and then kill the enemy, there'll basically be an explosion that happens afterwards based on how many stacks end up being on that enemy. The first relic trait is going to make you tankier. Basically, you'll get damage resistance whenever you use any of his abilities. And then this second trait allows you to pull in multiple targets at once. And then this third trait, if you kill anyone with this explosion passive, your tether ability, the grapple, will have its cooldown reduced massively just to 1 second. And then the Weapon Master is all about this aftermath thing, the explosion effect. So basically, if an enemy has an aftermath effect on them and you just shoot them, it'll cause an explosion immediately. And that damage will increase as you level it up. So there's a look at all of the heroes in Destiny Rising. Which character are you going to play? Let me know. And if you found this interesting, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. Cheerio.